Robinsons Land Corporation, one of the largest real estate developers in the Philippines and a subsidiary of the JG Summit Holdings Incorporated. Through the years, RLC has established a name in the real estate industry as it remains on top of the game in laying out the most well-designed and exceptional lifestyle spaces to the market. Its wide array of prime residential developments across the country has inspired many individuals to explore opportunities that provide a rewarding lifestyle experience. With close to 3 decades of experience in property development, RLC has made a legacy that is strongly associated with good value and high-quality developments that our employees, customers, business partners, and shareholders can be proud of. It has evolved into a property developer that continues to draw interesting blueprints of fresh concepts that go beyond the ordinary. Concepts that have the power to make lives anew. Concepts that create a sense of fulfillment to families, professionals, and young investors. In the years to come, RLC is envisioned to reach greater heights as it continues to expand its widespread portfolio of innovative developments that have made a big impact in the lives of Filipino families. We are RLC. Your dreams, our foundation.
Hi, Henry. Thanks for joining us today on the house. We're excited to have you on board. So how's the COVID situation been for you so far? How's working from home and everything?
Well, we had to adjust to the COVID pandemic. So in the last 3 months, we have already gone back to the office. But prior to this, in the early part of the pandemic, we had to do a lot of work from home. But we hope that we see the development of vaccines sooner than what we are told, so that we can go back to normal life.
Definitely, yeah, we're all hopeful for that. So Henry, let's start out with a little bit about your career and your background. So how did you get started in industry, and have you always known you wanted to be in the real estate industry?
Okay, I actually finished school with a bachelor degree in architecture. That was in '86, and it gave me the opportunity to work on the various estate projects. After that, I took up my master's in urban and regional planning, which allowed me to expand my scope beyond just buildings. And I was able to finish this with the help of a scholarship from the British Council. And I finished with a Master of Science in Urban Planning in Developing Countries from the University of Wales, College of Cardiff. After that, when I came back to the Philippines, I resumed working in the government. At the time, I was actually a government scholar. And I had the opportunity to apply what I have learned from my master's abroad. Prior to me going to that scholarship, I was actually working with a government agency called Housing and Urban Development Coordinating Council. It was the agency that took over the defunct Ministry of Human Settlements. So I felt that the master's degree was aligned with the work that I was doing in the office. However, when I came back from that study, the environment had changed, and there was a bigger priority at the time. I don't know if you recall, but at the time, the Philippine government and the American government were discussing about the eventual pull-out of the US bases in the country. There were 2 large bases and additional smaller bases. And in that period, there was a nationalism clamor to ask the Americans to leave or not to extend their stay in the country. As a result, the Philippine government decided that they should have a alternative plan to address what would happen to the baselands that will be returned to the control of the Philippine government. And I was fortunate to uh, be employed in that company and use, of course, the learnings that I was able to get from my masteral, because it's now we were looking at a bigger, much bigger scale. Subsequent to that, I eventually ended up with one of the subsidiaries of that company. Incidentally, the name is called the Bases Conversion Development Authority. I work in that company as head of our reverted baseland Metro Manila Camps department. That department was in charge of trying to privatize many of the military camps that the Philippine government owned. And one of the largest military camp was Fort Bonifacio. Uh, we eventually went into a privatization, major privatization activity. And this is where the government decided to award majority control of that company to the private sector. After the bidding was done, the setting up of the company was accomplished, they decided, because I had the institutional memory of the whole process, that I'd be initially seconded to that corporation. But eventually we were absorbed so that we would have continuity. The biggest achievement of that new company called Fort Bonifacio Development Corporation was the preparation of a improved master plan for what we now call the Bonifacio Global City. And part of that was actually to transform a open area which used to be a military camp, which we've removed, and then to what it is now known today, which is world-renowned Bonifacio Global City.
Yeah.
We basically started from scratch. We had talked to the military who was occupying those facilities. We had to ask them to be removed. We had to also handle the relocation of their camps, as well as address the relocation of the families that, or the military families that were affected by that redevelopment. I stayed on with that company as we grow the developments of Fort Bonifacio. We also assisted with government. We divided the development into multiple zones so that we can accelerate the development. So there's a portion there that was developed by the private sector. There are also portions in that area where it was developed by government. So that way, the acceleration of the redevelopment of Fort Bonifacio can be hastened. In 2007, I was invited by our company president to join Robinsons Land Corporation. I took it as an opportunity because I felt that those seed that I had planted in the global city was good enough for it to grow, and that my inputs will no longer be as much, considering that the major developments that are needed for the estate is there. So what were needed already was the construction of buildings, which will already be done by the private sector when they buy the land from Fort Bonifacio Development Corporation. So I had the opportunity to transfer to my present company, Fort Bonifacio, to Robinsons Land Corporation. And initially, I was invited by the company to be the head of our office buildings division. At the time, we had one division that covers high rises, both residential and office. And the company had decided to separate them to give more details and give particular attention to growing both businesses. So I was invited to be the head of the office buildings, which I chaired in 2007 until 2014. In 2014, I was invited by the late Mr. John to work in China. As you know, Mr. John has private investments worldwide, and one of his major love and investment is in China. And at the time, we had his companies had started already developing projects in China. So he invited me there initially to be the CFO of a property company in China. But after a month or so, he decided to name me the country head and take over the reign of the company. So fortunately, we were able to grow that business in China. We are in 5 cities in China with headquarters in Shanghai and in the following cities in Xiamen, in Chengdu, in Chongqing, and in Taichung. Uh, in late 2016, I asked Mr. John if I could be allowed to come back to the Philippines. I was homesick. Uh, so I decided that I think the 3 year stint in China was enough. So luckily, there was a position that they considered for me, and this was the general manager for the residential division. So I've been at the helm of the residential division since October of 2016 to the present.
Wow. And I also see that you're, on top of all that, a senior lecturer of urban planning at the University of the Philippines. Have you always had an interest in academics?
Yes, after I finished my masteral course in the UK, I came back and I had a chat with one of my professors in the UP School of Urban and Regional Planning. Actually, prior to taking my master's there, I was also taking up some master's subject in UP, University of the Philippines. But because of the opportunity of the scholarship, I was not able to finish my master's in the Philippines and opted to just retake it, the whole course in the UK. But after I came back, I had a chat with some of the professors and I shared with them what are my learnings and what improvements we can do into the curriculum that we had in the School of Urban and Regional Planning. And it was at that time that they invited me to be a lecturer. So I became a lecturer in UP, teaching once a week at the School of the College of Architecture, and every Saturday at the School of Urban and Regional Planning. So I've been a senior lecturer for I think close to 14 years.
Wow.
So I would take Saturday off from my own schedule and decide to go to school to teach half a day every week during that period.
Wow. So important to brighten the lives and minds of the next up and coming generations of urban planners in the Philippines. And I have to ask you, in that kind of one day off you have, or the few hours off you have in your week, what do you like to do for fun when you're not leading or teaching, your company and students?
Well, the rest of the Saturday and Sunday was reserved to the family.
Mm.
That actually was a big problem because when I was still working prior to teaching, we would come to the office early, go home late, and practically do not have enough time to share with our family. And when the opportunity came to be able to teach, I also took that opportunity. So I continued to keep my family aside because of that chance. But once I went home, I made sure that I allocate that time to my family.
Great. That's wonderful to hear. And to get so far in the industry and also so much credibility. Did you find that you needed mentors? And is there one mentor that you had that kind of helped you out a lot, and anything valuable that he shared with you?
Yeah, I have a lot of mentors, but I would say that in the current office, I have two. One, of course, is Mr. John, the late founder of the JD Summit group, and of course, Mr. Frederick, our president. Uh, I like to thank them because they allowed me to join the company on the strength of my reputation, but they gave me the liberty to choose the position that I would want to do for the company. So they trusted me more for my background rather than the skill set that I would be using already for that job that they were gonna assign to me. So they had trust in me, but to equate it with the trust, I asked them to guide me because I felt that I have never run a office building or I've never run country operations. So I had to get their wisdom, their guidance to share with me so that I can be guided as I navigate and chair or as I run the operations of those companies.
Definitely. And with all that trust and responsibility, you mentioned that you started in 2007. So this is not your first, economic crisis or global crisis you've been through. How do you deal with, business ventures that don't succeed, or your failures or challenges you face? Can you take me through, maybe a couple of times that you've faced failure and what you did to overcome that?
Yeah, I think the first thing that we need to realize is when there is a crisis, we have to face the crisis head on. If
Mhm.
we believe that this crisis will just uh, end without any intervention, that will not happen. So we should not put them aside. We should confront them and react accordingly. The second is, I think, to use the wealth of knowledge that we have gained over the last few years and apply that and look at what of those learnings or best practices can we use to address the current or the crisis that we have encountered. We in my career, I've been working since '86, so I've been there when the Asian financial crisis happened, when the global crisis happened, and when this new pandemic happened. So we have a wealth of knowledge that we have learned in each of those previous problems, which we can take here. The other thing that we should not forget in any crisis is that the solution to any crisis cannot rest with one person. There is need for us to always think that this is a team effort, and we have to rally the team to work together to address them. If anybody believes that one person can solve it, then he is not the right person to lead, because for me, if one person could be a hindrance, it could affect the whole target or the whole objective of going or crossing over that problem. So for me, the best is to get everybody aligned, for everybody to understand what needs to be done, for everybody to have a buy-in in the program that we have to do, and to work together to achieve that goal.
Definitely. And, obviously this whole situation with COVID has been unprecedented. The GDP is down to negative 16.5%. Unemployment is at a all-time high. I believe it's about 17.7% as of Q2. Um, you know, if you had to kind of address the viewers out there and people really highly affected by this, what would you say to them to keep positive, and what would be like your key success that they can take every day and learn from?
Yeah, we have seen the reports of many of the property analysts, and they have analyzed what had happened during the Asian financial crisis and the global crisis. And in the early part of those crises, of course, there's a natural impact on real estate and prices. They have
Hmm.
gone down. But they also reported that after the problem has dissipated, then there is a strong rebound in
Yeah.
each of those crises that we went through. And they told us not to forget those. In fact, what they were telling us is that if we can convince people who have extra cash today to invest, this is the best time to invest.
Hmm.
Because one, you have more opportunities to choose from. Second, their investment opportunities are bigger, provided you are willing to take the risk. And then the rebound is much, much better. So it's actually aligned with the saying of many of our older folks who say that the best opportunity is to rise, is available. The best opportunity is always available when there is a crisis. Because what we do during that crisis period is what will dictate our future.
Definitely. So stay positive. Look for opportunities when they come. I definitely think the regulations are helping. I saw that the BSP has risen the exposure of loans to from 20 to 25% now for banks. So they're trying to encourage more spending. So there are opportunities in the real estate market, as you said. And moving on now into Robinsons, what are some of the things that you want the market to know about you guys, and the main things you want to get across as people understand more about the Robinsons products and culture?
Yes, thank you for asking that. I like Robinsons Land Corporation, or RLC Residences, to be known as a brand that is strongly associated with good value, investments, and high quality with our buyers, employees, business partner, and shareholders that they can be proud of. I think this is the key that we want our clients to know and our stakeholders to know. And we want to hold on to this to be able to produce or to give them the product that they deserve.
Can you take us through some of those initiatives and what we could look forward to in September from Robinsons?
Actually, prior to the COVID pandemic, we were actually already doing our major digital transformation. And the COVID pandemic actually made us realize that we did the right thing, because we had planted the seed for us to go digital. And however, with the COVID there, the paramount learning is we should do it much faster now, but at the same time do it in an agile way. Because the traditional way of going digitalization is to do it in a big way, do it all or nothing. But if we are to address our current needs, we have to do it agile. We have to do it in small bits, but every day we can improve, just like how the softwares are developed. They have a version that they release so often so that they can already roll it out and people can start using it. But at the same time, get the feedback of our end users so that we can continue to evolve and improve on it. And that is how we have also done in the Robinsons Land Corporation. Prior to the pandemic, we had started two major activities. We were developing a seller's portal, and we were developing a buyer's portal. What's a seller's portal? A seller's portal actually is a tool that allows our sellers to be able to have access to all the informations that they need about the products that they are selling. So wherever they move around with the availability of a tablet or a cell phone, they can connect with the information resident in our company's servers, and they can share that information with the buyer. The old traditional way, of course, you'll do it by hand. You always have to carry a paper. You also have to print out of the availability chart every day. But with digitalization, you can do that on the run, because you have that information instantly. At the same time, we also are provided the opportunity to track the seller's activities, because when they have interactions with the buyers, they can input in that portal the different activities that they have done, the interaction, what are the requests of the buyers, what are the responses, what are their commitments. So we have a online tracking also of the activities between our buyers and sellers. So that's a good plan that we have started even before the pandemic. The other digital transformation that we did before the pandemic was the development of a buyer's portal. The old traditional way is when a buyer needs something, they will call our customer care service. They would ask them, or they will share the information, and they will expect a reply from them. So we came out with a buyer's portal where we allow the buyers to monitor their own data at the convenience of their home or wherever they are. So if they are registered, they can log in just like the way you would log into your bank account. You can track and you can monitor your account. Here, you can also monitor the investment that you have done with Robinsons. So if you had paid us, you can check it there. If you had been issued receipts, you can see receipts. If you forgot about your billings, you can download a copy of the statement of accounts. If you have submitted post-dated checks, you know that they are recorded in that portal. You can see how many valid checks you still have, how are the checks processed? Are they already deposited, or did you forget to fund it? It will show that your check had bounced and that you are required to replace them. All of that make it convenience for the buyer, especially now during the pandemic, to have access anywhere they are, and they don't have to call us, or they don't have to come personally to the office to be able to get those information. The third digital transformation that we have embarked, which we did during the pandemic, is the development of a homeowners portal. And it became very, very important during the pandemic. As you know, during the quarantine period, everybody was required to stay home. So we had difficulty interacting with our neighbors or with the buildings. For many of our residents within the building, all the community facilities were closed. They were not allowed to use that, right, because of the restriction of government. So we determined at the time that we should provide a channel where our residents can connect with the building administration, and that is why we developed a homeowners portal. And because this was done during the pandemic, we had to do it again in an agile way. We started with 2 buildings, then we slowly expanded to additional buildings every month. And we also did it in such a way that we had initial features only, and we continue to expand the features on a month-to-month basis. So the initial requirement of our residents at the time was timely information. So by having that homeowners portal, anything that they need to know, they can just tap into that portal. They know when deliveries will be made. If there is a community grocery that will be available in their area, they are advised, they are told what time. If there is a government announcement, they can see the announcement in that portal. So the source of information is more valid, because one of the things that also during a pandemic is the disinformation. So with the availability of the portal, we were able to share with them in a timely manner the important information. Subsequent to sharing the information, we decided to, of course, upgrade and improve the portal. So now they can also view their statement of account. Similar to when you're buying a unit here, the statement of account tells you if you're able to pay your monthly dues, if you're updated with your utility bills, or if not, you can actually link through the portal and you can pay. And you can actually upload, if you did not pay to the portal and you decide to do a bank-to-bank transaction, you can actually take a screenshot of that and upload it in the portal. So our building management team will also be informed that you have already paid these bills, and we can reconcile them. So again, we make it more convenient for our residents this time to be able to do these things at the convenience of their homes. And we continue to do that. Lately, we've expanded the services. So there are other services that you can now order from the portal. So if you want a delivery of water, if you want your clothes washed, you can actually order, somebody will pick it up. So we slowly develop from just information to management of fees, and then now to something like a marketplace where you can now order at the convenience of your home. So those are the initiatives that we have done.
Great. I mean, it's definitely on the digital forefront, and obviously with the whole pandemic, it's been a catalyst for change for a lot of companies to go digital. But to build something like you just described, obviously takes a lot of foresight, and you had to kind of be in this process before the pandemic started. So really great to hear that you guys are kind of leading that change and pioneering the industry with that. Based on all the data that you've seen and all the different trends that you've noticed, are there anything that's coming up with the buying behavior during the pandemic that you can share with us? And are you trying to incorporate this into any of the future developments you guys make?
Yes, initially when the pandemic happened, of course, the people were concerned because they were unsure if they still would have job the next day. So there was an initial reduction in the interest of them buying a condominium unit or a residential development. There is still a segment of society that still have that. because our product actually cover different levels. We have, of course, the luxury level, we have the mid-level, then of course we have the affordable. So depending on where our buyers are in that category, they would have generally a number of concerns or at the same time opportunities. But I would say that in the luxury market, the general sentiment is still high because these are people who take challenge in this type of crisis, and they are the ones that are willing to invest because they have the extra disposable income that they can invest, and they know that based on experience, once the economy improve, they will earn a lot from them. But for those in the middle to low, of course, it has to do with their employment status. If they're under threat of potentially a retrenchment, or their savings are not big enough, then of course they would try to cater it first to their initial priorities. And only if they have that will they start investing again in residential. So it all depends also on the nature and the background of our target clientele.
Definitely. And for those that are targeted that have the investing capabilities, are there any promos that they can look forward to from Robinsons?
Yes, we do have a lot of promo. In fact, this September, we are going big on a lot of our projects. We have substantial promos. We have big discounts, 10 to 15% discount on selected limited units of our ready for occupancy units. We also have discounts, of course, smaller for our pre-selling units. Then for our loyal buyers, we have a loyalty discount for our repeat buyers. In one project, we also have a special price for that unit. And at the same time, we were targeting also the mid to lower income. So we developed a upgraded program called Early Move In. Most of these companies currently offer that. But what we've done is we've modified it to allow our potential clients to pay the down payment over a period of 3 months to make it easy for them to be able to have enough funds to be able to allow them. Now, what is the advantage of the early move-in programs? Today, many of our buyers who still do not own a house are required to rent. And of course, that means that they have to shell out that money. But if you expect them to pay rent and at the same time also shell out money in a pre-selling, then they have to allocate two times the amount that they would normally allocate for spending for having to own a house or to manage a residence. So with the early move-in program, the idea is what they will be paying their lessor, they would pay directly to us already. So that way, instead of having to allocate 2 times the amount of money, you only need 1 because that is going directly to us. And you are already able to move into a Robinsons project. So that way, whatever you're gonna pay goes directly to owning that unit, rather than putting that money to a lessor. Then at the end of the day, that unit is still owned by your lessor. So that has actually did very well during the crisis of 2017 and before. And we are bringing that back now, and because we believe that this will allow those who have less affordability to be able to gain a threshold in this pandemic.
Definitely. And in terms of trends of location, have you seen anything come up? I mean, obviously locations become more important than ever as people look to go into outside of the major cities to relocate. Have you seen any of these trends happening in the Robinson portfolio?
Yes, it does. But under my wing, we only have projects within Metro Manila and Cebu. But for our other business units who's handling horizontal developments, there is actually a bigger demand also outside of Metro Manila. I think more than ever, people believe that they should be investing in money if they have disposable income. because eventually, as I said, with the good promos that are available from the different developers, they can actually take this chance to invest, and in a few years they will be able to reap that investment.
And big picture stuff now. Where do you guys see yourself by end of the year? What's the plan, and how do you guys plan to position yourself?
Well, the first, of course, is to be able to maintain our market share. It is important that we continue to reinforce that so that we will not lose out with our competitors. At the same time, we have to continue to share the good news with our buyers and our clients. I know the daily news is still about the pandemic, but there are a lot of good news that we can share with them. It's important to uplift the sentiments of our fellow Filipinos, to be able for them to feel better, so that we can survive this crisis. And with that, will create now the opportunity for us to grow in our own business, because with better sentiment, then there is more purchasing power, there is more spending, and of course, there's opportunity to also spend in owning a home.
Definitely. Yeah, the home has definitely become one of the most important parts of a family during the pandemic. And it's wonderful to hear that you guys have kind of helped many families cherish that and grow their wealth through purchasing a home as well. But on the opposite side of that, as a leader of the residential unit, how do you keep your team motivated as you kind of cope through this pandemic? How do you keep the mindset strong and inspire them, every day to go out and help change the lives of their customers?
Okay, the first thing is to always communicate with our people. It is important that they know what is the situation. And for us to be able to share that information, it's important that we be transparent and candid with them. Of course, and not everybody will be convinced, because they have different backgrounds, they're going through different challenges. But it is important that they are aware of the current state. There is no sugarcoating that we should be doing, otherwise we are deceiving them. Second is they need to know market realities. There is no point again telling them that this is good, this is so and so, when it is not, because only if they know where we are going through, what we are going through, will they be there to empathize and to work together to achieve the goal that we want to set for them. So these are the things that we have to address on a daily basis. Now, as to the disinformation, or as to the loss of motivation, I think we'll have to do it not only from top down, but we have to do it together. It is very difficult if just one person is motivating another, because there is some detachment. So the expectation is for us to share that with a lot of people, and then for them to help also in motivating others, because there is that effect, that bandwagon effect, when everybody is happy. Yeah. But if you just expect one person to tell everybody has to be motivated, it will not happen. Everybody has to be part of that, as I said earlier, part of that team to make it possible and to make it happen.
So how did you align the leaders to kind of adjust their strategy and vision when the lockdown started? And have you guys kept aligned with that throughout the whole lockdown, or has it shifted throughout?
We have had regular meetings with the team. We call monthly meetings. And then for the different departments, depending on the issues, we also have separate meetings. For our organization, we are also happy that Mr. Lance, who now heads our conglomerate, periodically also comes out with his announcement, and he has also set a meeting with many of our employees or many of our colleagues. It's also being reinforced by our president, who have had to call town hall meetings to also be able to share what is the market reality, and also provide the employees with the opportunity to ask direct questions with senior management, and that allows them to have a better feel of where we are right now.
Definitely. And in closing now, for someone watching this, who's experienced the pandemic, do you have any words of advice or wisdom for them, to someone who wants to pursue a career in real estate or eventually buy their first home? Anything you want to have them take away as we end this interview?
Yeah, I would say that the crisis should never be a hindrance. In fact, we should look at crisis as opportunities. If we are more determined, we are more resourceful, then it will allow us to overcome these challenges. The other thing that I want to highlight is that we have gone through a lot of education, formal education, that allowed us to be where we are today. But for me, formal education allows us the opportunity to have a living. But it is this self-education that will allow us to do better in the future. And I quote Jim Rowe, who gave that quotation. He said, "Formal education will make you a living, but self-education will make you a fortune." I think
Wow.
that's a word that I would want to share with everyone.
Yes, definitely. Like a true academic. So it's been a pleasure speaking with you this morning. I've definitely learned a lot about Robinsons, and it's incredible to hear what you guys are doing to innovate, to pioneer, and essentially to help your clients find their dream home, which is an amazing task to handle. But also, it sounds like you guys are on the right track and using technology and digitalization to improve the market, make it more available to everyone, and also inspire your team along the way. So thank you, Henry, for all of your words today and all your wisdom and all your advice.
And thank you for giving us this opportunity to share with you our insights. Thank you very much, Ken.
Thank you.